Welcome to Create More Intimacy, a podcast for men. I'm Elisa Stoddard, and I help successful men stop chasing sex and start building real connection so they finally feel close, connected, and wanted again. If you're honest, you've been lonely for a long time. Lonely in conversations, lonely in the intimacy, lonely in your own home. You've tried to shrug it off or bury yourself in work, but it's getting harder to pretend that this is fine. Because somewhere in your mind, you can already see where this goes if nothing changes. You've watched other couples drift and then divorce. You don't want that future, but you don't know how to stop the distance from growing either. Welcome to episode 31, Lonely in Your Marriage, What Successful Men Need to Know Now. Loneliness in a marriage rarely announces itself. It doesn't come with a dramatic moment or a big fight. It shows up quietly in the space between you. The lack of eye contact, the short answers, the way you both become experts at talking about everything except how you actually feel. And after a while, the distance becomes normal, and you get used to avoiding certain topics. You get used to keeping the peace. You get used to pretending that the absence of conflict means you're doing just fine. But the loneliness is never neutral. It's a signal. It's the first warning that the relationship is drifting in a direction neither of you intended. And if you don't intervene, it becomes the place where resentment grows, where misunderstandings deepen, and where intimacy fades without anyone noticing exactly when it happened. This is the part that most men overlook. They think the marriage ended because of a big moment, like a big final argument or some breaking point. But marriages rarely collapse in a single day. They erode slowly from years of distance that went unaddressed. This is the crossroads, not the loud moments, the quiet ones. The evenings where you sit next to each other but feel miles apart. The mornings you tell yourself you'll deal with it later. And then later becomes months, and months become years, and that ache you feel now, that loneliness you barely admit, it's the sign that something needs to change before this becomes the point of no return. I want to tell you about a man I've coached many times over. Not just one man, but the pattern I see in almost every successful leader, owner, executive, high-achieving husband who comes to me. He runs a company or he leads a team. He's the guy people rely on, the guy who solves problems and carries pressure and makes things happen. In his world, competence is his currency. He knows how to perform. He knows how to deliver. He knows how to hold everything together, except at home. That's the one place he feels like he's slowly losing ground, and he doesn't know how to talk about it, so he just doesn't. Instead, he stays at work a bit longer, and he tells himself it's because the business needs him to, or because the team can't do it without him. But deep down, he knows the real reason. It feels easier to be at work, where he's respected and listened to, than to walk into a home where the air feels heavy and the silence sits between them. And when he's home, he stays busy there too. He takes up hobbies that fill up hours. He gets deeply involved with a sports team, or he signs up for another race or league or project. Anything that keeps him moving. Anything that keeps him from noticing that his wife doesn't really turn toward him anymore. He always thought things would get better once the kids grew up, once the house was quieter, once the chaos settled. But now that the kids are older or leaving, he's realizing he doesn't automatically get her attention back. She has her own interests, her own friendships, her own routines, work, friends, because someone had to fill that emotional space that he wasn't filling. She's been growing. He's been relying on her to carry the relationship, and she's tired of being the emotional engine for both of them. None of this means that she doesn't love him. It means she doesn't want to be responsible for both his happiness and her own. And he feels that shift hard. This is when the loneliness gets sharper. This is when the questions start. And yes, this is when the fear creeps in that if they keep drifting, the temptation of another woman might show up. And it isn't because he wants that. Not because he's that kind of man, but because the loneliness and avoidance create cracks that feel bigger than they are. Every man in this situation reaches the same moment, the moment when he realizes he's built a life full of people who depend on him, but the one relationship he actually wants is slipping away. The moment he sees that staying busy isn't fixing anything. And the moment he finally admits to himself that if he wants something different, he's going to have to change the way he shows up. Because we all know the distance doesn't correct itself. Question 1. Why doesn't she want to connect with me anymore? Most men think the answer is sex, or stress, or hormones, or her being mad. But the real reason is quieter. She doesn't feel emotionally safe with you because for years she had to carry the emotional workload alone. She asked for help and you tried to fix things. She shared feelings and you gave solutions. She wanted closeness and you thought that meant doing more or making more. She needed empathy and you went into performance mode. She didn't pull away because she stopped loving you. She pulled away because she has been empty for a long time, and she's learned how to fill herself up without relying on you. And that looks like friendships and hobbies and work and her own community. This is not a punishment. It was how she survived. Once men hear that, then questions come fast. Question 2. Is this fixable or is it too late? This is where I see men get scared. They think they're asking me a relationship question, but what they're really asking me is a self-worth question. What they really mean is, am I too far gone to matter to her anymore? And guys, the answer is no. In fact, this stage is often the most changeable because it's the first moment that you are finally awake. What isn't fixable is doing nothing. What isn't fixable is hoping that she'll suddenly turn toward you again without anything shifting. But the moment you start to do the internal work, the moment you begin to understand her instead of fix her, things change faster than you think. This is exactly the part of the process where I help men become the men their wives feel safe turning towards again. And that leads right into the next big fear, which is question 3. What if this doesn't work? Every man asks this. Some out loud, but most ask it silently. They're scared to try something new because it means admitting the old way didn't work. Trying means vulnerability. Trying means risking the possibility of failure with the most important relationship in their life. But here's the truth, and you need to hear me clearly. What you've been doing hasn't been working for a very long time. This staying busy business isn't working. This hoping things will magically get better business isn't working either. And waiting for her to take the first step definitely isn't working. Coaching doesn't work because I have a magic wand. It works because you finally have someone who shows you what's actually happening between you and your wife. Someone who can translate what she's feeling when her words aren't clear, and someone who can guide you out of the patterns that you've been stuck in for years. And once you understand her and you understand yourself, everything gets easier. Connection gets easier. Conversations get easier. Intimacy gets easier even. Question 4. Will this be uncomfortable or embarrassing? Here's the truth. What is embarrassing is living another year in a marriage where you feel invisible. What is uncomfortable is pretending everything is fine when you know it isn't. Coaching is not about exposing you or shaming you. It is the opposite. It is the first place that many men finally feel safe enough to tell the truth about how lonely they are, how confused they are, how much they want things to change, but don't know how. Nothing you say shocks me. Nothing you share gets judged by me. You talk, I translate. You tell me the dynamic, I explain what's actually happening underneath it. You describe the fights or the silence, and I'll show you what she's really reacting to. Men walk away from the first call with me, usually saying, wow, that was a relief. I wish I had done it sooner. This is not embarrassing. It's actually freeing. Question 5. Is this going to turn into blaming me for everything? No, because this is not about blame in the first place. It's about awareness. There are things you have not understood. There are things that she has not communicated clearly. There are patterns you've both learned and been living under for years. And until someone helps you see what is actually happening, you stay stuck in that dark loop looking for a light switch. I'm not going to blame you, but I am going to illuminate you. You will learn why conversations fall apart. You'll learn how to respond when she's angry or distant. You'll learn where intimacy broke down and how to rebuild connection in ways that feel good and not full of pressure. Men leave this process feeling respected and stronger and calmer and more in control of themselves than they have been for quite a long time. So blame has no place in this. Question 6. Why me? What makes my approach so different? Because I understand women, and I know how to translate what she's actually feeling into something you can work with. I have coached successful men who wanted exactly what you want, and my approach isn't theoretical. It's practical, direct, and immediately useful. You'll know exactly what to say, what to try, and how to show up in ways that create real connection, not temporary fixes or gimmicks. This is what men wish couples counseling had given them, a clear path forward instead of more confusion. I help you understand her and lead with confidence and build long-term intimacy that doesn't disappear the moment the stress hits. And the best part, it's all within your power to change. You don't need her to go first. When you shift, the marriage shifts. That's why my work gets results that actually last. Question 7. How do I know if this is for me? You know this is for you if you are a man who is successful on paper but lonely at home. A man who's respected everywhere except in the relationship that matters most to you. A man who keeps saying he'll deal with it later, but later has already been a few years. A man who wants to connect again and not live like roommates. A man who's ready to actually do something different. This is not for men who think their wives are the entire problem. It's not for men who just want to vent instead of grow. It's not for men who want an opinion instead of a transformation. It's not for men who have not tried anything yet. This is for men who are ready. Men who know 2025 has been heavy and lonely. Men who can feel that the marriage is at a breaking point. Men who do not want to roll into another year hoping things magically get better. Because here's the moment most men miss. Right now, you are standing at the fork in the road. You can either keep tolerating the distance and hope she turns around again toward you, or you can take one step that shifts everything in 2026. Waiting is the only thing that guarantees nothing will change. So, how has 2025 actually felt in your marriage? Now, I'm not talking about the surface. I'm talking about what's the real truth here. The loneliness, the tension, the distance, the mornings you woke up guarded, the nights you went to bed disappointed. Are you willing to live a whole nother year the same way? At the end of 2026, are you going to be complaining about the same things? This is where your marriage turns around, or it falls apart completely. Nothing changes until you do. You get one shot at the next year. Make it the year you rebuild something real. If you're listening to this and something in you is saying, I cannot go another year like this, then I want you to hear me. This is your moment. This is your moment, not next month, not when things get even worse, not when she finally breaks down or says something that you can't come back from. Right now. Because this stage you are in, especially if the kids are older or leaving the house, is the defining crossroads for almost every couple I work with. Launching kids either brings people closer or it exposes every crack that has ever been there for years. You already know which direction you are headed. Your connection is not going to magically repair itself. She is not suddenly going to turn towards you because the house is quieter. If anything, the distance grows wider when there's more space. This is the window. This is the season where you decide whether the two of you rebuild something real or drift even farther apart. You do not have to let another year go by wondering if she still wants you. You do not have to tiptoe around the silence or hope things get better on their own. There is a clear, proven path forward, and it starts with one conversation. It starts with booking a relationship clarity call with me. I will talk about what is actually happening between you and your wife, why things feel so distant, and what needs to shift to reconnect in ways that last. And you will leave the call with clarity and direction and next steps that actually make sense. There isn't going to be pressure, and there's certainly not going to be judgment from me, just the truth and understanding a way forward. If you want 2026 to feel nothing like 2025, this is how you begin shifting the entire direction of your marriage. It's not by trying harder, not by distracting yourself, and not by waiting around for her to change, but by taking one step that puts you back in the driver's seat of your very own life. You're not stuck, and you're not behind, and you're not too far gone. You're simply at a moment where every man has to decide what kind of husband he wants to be. A man who keeps hoping things work out on their own, or a man who chooses to learn the skills that actually create connection. Go to elisastoddard.com to book your call and let's talk. Give yourself the clarity you've been missing. Give your marriage a real chance. And give 2026 the version of you that refuses to keep sleepwalking through your own relationship. I'm looking forward to talking to you. See you next time. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.